Episode 2 of Dragon Ball Daima just dropped, and once more I'm here to break down everything new that was revealed. As a reminder, this video isn't a review, and it's not just going to be me going over the summary of the story. That's what watching the episode's for. But I will be explaining all the new things we learned and giving a little bit of my opinions here and there. Because we still did learn a bunch of new things this episode, even though it was a little bit more low-key than the last one. As expected, more info about the Demon Realm, but also a few other things. Now, I still will give some brief thoughts on the episode, and once more, it was amazingly animated. It's really good to see the Dragon Ball anime having a good production cycle again. Even as a defender of the Dragon Ball Super anime, I can't deny that this is way better than what we had there. The quality control, the consistency of the animation, everything is so much better. And it bodes really well for Dragon Ball going forward. And obviously the performances are great. One thing to note here too is that most of the characters did get voice actor changes because now they're younger. The only person that didn't was Goku. And it's going to be interesting to see how the dub version of this plays out too, because as of recording, the dub version isn't out. Like, we know Goku's old dub voice actor is coming back, but in terms of everyone else, we don't know. It's a pretty cool and bold choice to completely change everyone, but it also does make sense. Although one strange thing about this is the fact that we actually did see some of these characters as kids before, like Krillin and Vegeta for example. Yet their voice actors are still different, so it's kind of interesting that those two have changed. I guess it does make sense with the voice actors being much older now, but also just a weird little thing to note. Anyways, on to the big reveals. So first off, we learned some more about Shenron. He tells Goma right off the bat that for the first time people summon him, they only get one wish, which also explains why Chi-Lai only got one wish in Dragon Ball Super Broly. Although it's interesting because in the anime version of Dragon Ball Super, we saw Shenron grant 3 wishes for Sorbet, Shu, and Mai when Frieza was revived. Although most people ignore the anime version of Resurrection F anyways, so I think this just adds fuel to the fire. Otherwise, it makes sense with what we've been shown so far, especially with what we saw in Broly, and it explains why Shenron just disappeared there after sending Broly back to Fampa. Pretty cool to get that explained. We learned more about Neva too. Him summoning the Dragon Balls and restoring them seems really overpowered, and we learned that he can't do that twice in a row. Although the fact that he can even do that in general is still pretty crazy overpowered, but it gives us an explanation as to why he just doesn't get the Dragon Balls again so they can get an extra wish. It's a very Toriyama excuse, which I love. Apparently, Dende is also going to play a role in the story too because he got kidnapped and he got completely turned into a baby. It's kind of weird because we get told that these characters aren't different on the inside, just the outside. Younger characters like Goten, Trunks, and Dende completely turn into babies, but we actually see Goten and Trunks understanding what's happening and seemingly conversing with each other too, at least telepathically. It might have just been their internal monologue, but they were responding to each other too, so at the very least, we know that they're conscious of what's going on. Although it's weird because Dende acts like a baby completely, but then we see when he's getting kidnapped, he tries to attack Degasu a bit, but then just falls asleep like a baby. But like I mentioned, Krillin even says that everyone's the same on the inside, they just grew tiny, which also explains why all the characters are called Mini as opposed to Kid. We knew this going into the story already, but this just explains it further. But still, it makes me wonder what's going on with Dende because I guess he still does realize what's going on here. Even if he is acting like a baby, he still seems to know what's happening. We'll definitely be seeing more of that because one of their goals here is to actually retrieve Dende, and the fact that they kidnap him obviously means that they have some sort of plan with Dende. Even Shin says this. Which is nice, at least we're going to get to see Dende have some sort of relevance here, although I wonder to what extent. Maybe it's nothing huge, or maybe there is an actual big plan with him. Another small reveal is the fact that we got to see Popo's head, because usually it's always covered up, but now we see that he has horns, which is kind of a funny little thing. I mean, not important, but still, a reveal is a reveal. One crazy thing we get to see here is that Piccolo actually knows about the Demon Realm Dragon Balls and Neva too. Obviously, we knew Piccolo was going to be involved in the story, he's in all the promo material, and he's seemingly going to go to the Demon Realm with everyone. We know he has some sort of relevance here, and with all the new lore about the Namekians that we've gotten so far, it makes sense for him to be involved. But still, this has some really crazy implications for Piccolo because now that we're learning all this new stuff about Namekians, this all applies to him too. And the fact that he actually knows about some of this stuff too has implications for him going forward. What those implications are, we don't know for sure, but I mean, like I mentioned last time, Piccolo just got a brand new form in Dragon Ball Super Superhero. That series is still on hiatus, we don't know what's happening with Dragon Ball Super, but with all the stuff we're learning about Namekians and Daima, and Piccolo now having more relevance in Dragon Ball Super as well, I am really curious to see where that goes, because clearly there's some big changes with Piccolo. Anyways, he has some knowledge of the Demon Realm here. He said he's only heard about it though because he wasn't born back then. So I'm assuming this was passed down from Kami somehow, or even maybe Demon King Piccolo, or just former knowledge as the Nameless Namekian. Probably that, because now that Piccolo is merged together, I'm guessing this is just the Nameless Namekian's knowledge from when he was first on Namek. Regardless of how he got the info though, still it's worth noting Piccolo has some knowledge that we didn't know he had. It really makes me wonder what else he knows and how relevant he'll be in the story going forward, because he clearly is going to be relevant in Daima somehow. It's just to what extent that we don't truly know yet. Another thing we learned from him is the fact that Namekians left the Demon Realm because they don't want to be ruled. Once more, this kind of adds to the idea that this info is from the Nameless Namekian from what he heard from Namek, because this is likely just his former knowledge from the other Namekians around him. And clearly the Namekians have some sort of beef with the Demon Realm, except for Neva, so I'm sure we'll get some sort of reasoning as to why he remains there and why he seemingly is fine with the ruling there. When I covered episode 1, I think I mentioned this before, but keep your eyes on Neva because clearly something's cooking with him. Like, it was obvious regardless, but with all this stuff we're learning about Namekians and their relation to the demon realm, we could tell with just 2 episodes in that the Namekians are still going to have a huge role going forward, and we still have more to explore with them. We learn a little bit more about Shin too. Like with the last episode, it was revealed that he has a brother and a sister, and this time we learned how he got to this universe. We already knew the Kais came from elsewhere, this isn't really new info, but we get to see the spaceship he used to get here, and how it's able to travel places unlike regular spaceships. Funny thing is, this is kind of similar to what we know about Kami. Like, Kami took a ship to Earth from Namek, and the ship just laid dormant and then it had to be repaired, and now we're getting the same thing with Shin because his ship was just there on the sacred world of Kais collecting dust, and then it got damaged by Goku's fight with Kid Buu. Anyways, another thing we hear from Shin too is something that builds upon what I mentioned in the last video. So in episode 1, we were told that people with pointy ears are from the demon realm, and Shin clarifies this time that most people with pointy ears are, but it's not everyone. And I also referenced this in the last video too. People misinterpret it as everyone with pointy ears is from the demon realm, but now we have full confirmation that that's not always the case. Most of the times it is, but not always. Regardless, this still has pretty interesting implications given the amount of characters we know with pointy ears. But again, I was kind of joking last time, like, if it meant everyone, that would mean people like Dodoria are from the demon realm, or like the Great Apes are from the demon realm, but not the Saiyans in general. Like, it just didn't make sense for every single person with pointy ears to be from there, so now we have full confirmation of that. Although, I guess, hold my judgment, maybe Dodoria actually is a powerful person from the demon realm? Who knows? Jokes aside though, it's good to have this fully cleared up, so now people will know. Probably the biggest thing we got to see in this episode was the true introduction of Glorio. Now, we knew of him before, he's in all the marketing material, and he's even going to be in Sparking Zero too, and we briefly saw him in the last episode. We knew he was going to be important. This is the first time he formally got introduced and showed up. His true motives are still unknown, and he seems kinda shady, but he's teaming up with Goku because he wants to stop Goma. Clearly, something about him isn't what it seems, and I'm guessing this is going to be kind of an enemy of my enemy situation. Maybe he's not a true ally, or he'll grow to be a true ally? Something along those lines. But we do learn more about the demon realm from him too. He mentioned that he's from the 3rd demon world, and this really makes me think that Daima is going to be a lot like GT. Like, we already knew that, there was a lot of similarities to go off of already. But clearly there's going to be a lot of planet hopping in the demon realm, and we're going to learn more about the planets over there. And during the ending credits, we actually get to see this more. It shows various different locations of the demon realm that seem to be various planets there. Just as the regular universe has separate planets, it seems the demon realm's the same. It's a massive place all with its own worlds. Interestingly enough, one of the areas we see looks exactly like Namek. Like, if you look at the architecture of the buildings and the trees, like, if you didn't know the screenshot was from Daima, you could show this to someone and say this is Namek, and I'm sure they would just believe you because it looks exactly like Namek. And I don't think this is actually Namek, this is probably a place in the demon realm where the Namekians came from. Especially because this world seems to be abandoned. Like, if you look at the building on the right side here, it looks like it's decaying, and so do the others. I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that this is where the Namekians are originally from, and with it being an ending, it's clearly going to be one of the places that we see more of soon. Once more, keep a close eye on the Namekians because we're getting a lot of Namekian lore in the series for some reason. What reason that is, we don't truly know yet, but we're going to be learning a lot more about Namek and the Namekians going forward, both in terms of their history and their current status, I guess. But besides that world that looks like Namek in the Demon Realm, we get to see a few other places there too. Presumably, all places we're going to be exploring soon. Overall, a much more low-key episode, but we still did get some pretty nice reveals and some little tidbits of info that we could be using going forward. It's becoming very apparent that Daima's going to be really lore-heavy. Like, with this much info just 2 episodes in, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen going forward. Especially because we know so little about the Demon Realm right now, besides what we've seen in video games, which might not be completely true. Either way, Daima's going to end up being huge for world building. It's already done a lot in 2 episodes, and we have plenty more episodes to go. But let me know what you think below. What do you think about these reveals, and what do you expect going forward? Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.